What is up, everybody?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Welcome back to, this is week 5 of our series on financial freedom, the workshop.
Happy Fat Tuesday. I just realized it was Fat Tuesday, Mardi Gras. You guys are not out partying, eating the, what is it called? The cake? What is it called?
The king cake?
King cake with a little baby in it. Yeah, you're
Well,
out
thank
here.
you for being with us.
Yes.
So if you're just jumping on for the first time, this is something that Laura and I have been doing for, 8+ years. We have been training our team, really just going through, here's the path to financial freedom, step by step, very tactical, very actionable. And we broke this into a 6-part series. This is the first time we've actually done it live on YouTube. It's literally just been personally for our own company. And so that's really our heart and intention. We have been teaching our staff for years how to get to financial freedom. And so we're happy to share that with you all now. If you are just coming in for the first time, this is on my YouTube channel. It is on the live section. You can go back. There will be one more session next week. That'll be our last session. And again, you can watch these anytime if you missed any of them.
Housekeeping items. If you do not know, if you have not been with us before, if you would like to ask a question, please feel free to ask it in the chat on the right-hand side of your screen. The only caveat there is you have to be a subscriber, which of course you want to be a subscriber anyways. So just hit subscribe and then you'll be able to ask any questions. We will answer the questions at the end. So please feel free. Any question you have regarding anything we're talking about tonight, pop it in the chat. If you have a question about prior things we talked about, pop it in the chat. We will answer every question. So if we have to stay a little bit later, we will, but we probably won't. I mean, it's Fat Tuesday. You guys want to go do your thing.
Right. So with that in mind, we keep these very short, sweet, actionable, tactical, and we'll go for maybe 30 minutes and hit a few questions, and then boom, voila, we're done. We can move on with our night. So I guess for tonight, we're going to be talking about kind of this really key component to it before we get into investing. Next week's gonna be our last session talking about your first investment and breaking down what our first investment was. But we've been leading up to this time here, really talking through the strategy, right? Of how do I get more money at the end of the month so that I can invest, right? We talked through budgeting. We talked through cutting 10 to 20% out of your spending. Then we talked through increasing your income. We talked through the strategies for that, really with the intention that I have an extra 20 to 40% of my income. You know, the most wealthy people in the world save at least 40% of their income, right? And you don't have to start there, right? You could start small. You can start with 5, 10% and start knocking things down. So I would go back through those things, but we're getting to this place where now you have money at the end of the month. We talked about creating a special account. I call it a sacred account. You're going to pay off bad debt, and then you're going to pile up money in there for buying assets, buying something that is going to spit off more income. You're going to buy something that's good as opposed to buying something that's bad that costs you money every month. You want to buy something that makes you money every single month, right? That is how the wealthy get wealthy. That is the game that they play. So we did this exact same process. We did this in probably 8-9 years. We got to financial freedom, and how I define that is we have more passive income coming in every single month than we spend, right? We got to a place a few years ago where we have more than $10,000 a month from our investments. They happen to be all rental properties, more than 10 grand a month coming in, and we spend less than that, right, on our expenses personally. And so from that position, Laura and I had a conversation. Babe, do we want to, pull the kids out of school and do that homeschool stuff and buy the trailer and drive around and do all that kind of stuff? And we both said, no, that sounds horrible for us. But you know what? It was fun to consider these things, right? We may do that as kind of things when our kids are out of school. But what was awesome is it took this weight off of us. And just like, man, like if our kids got sick, right? Like we could stop. We could just put our businesses on hold. We can do whatever we wanted to and put that priority with our family. If our parents got sick, if we had to take care of them, right? Same kind of thing. We could stop. We could put things on the back burner and take care of our parents, our family. That's honestly what's most important, right? And everyone has this heart and this dream to do all these things, but you just don't have the tactical steps and or the discipline or the belief, which we'll talk about tonight, to be able to get there. And so as we have been going through this, I think that it would be a shame if I didn't talk about this session tonight, talking about belief, because you can do all of the things that we just talked about, but honestly, 90% of people are not going to do it. They're not going to get there. And you know why? Not because it's hard.
They don't believe it.
They don't believe, right? They don't believe that they are worthy of it. They don't believe that they could do these things. They don't believe it's for them. Most people do not believe that they are worthy of financial freedom, that they are worthy of great things. They think for one reason or another, right? Society has taught you, your parents have taught you, their schools have taught you, the rich are over there. That's not for me, right? That's how we grew up. I did not believe that I would be super wealthy, right? I think we were gonna do fine. We grew up kind of in that middle class area, and it's like, okay, we'll be all right. But no, we had to grow, literally like grow our financial intelligence. And that's where I wanna go with this tonight, because if we don't put this in perspective, if you don't have that light bulb, pull chain here and think, okay, yeah, you know what, I'm hearing what Brett's saying, like, I actually do believe that I could do this, then it's all for naught, right? Like you're not gonna get anywhere. And honestly, that's why most people are poor, because they don't take the appropriate action, because it really comes back starting with your belief, right? What you believe equals the appropriate actions that you will take. And they can be positive actions towards moving you towards your financial goals, or they could be self-sabotage, right? Like there's this analogy I love of everyone has their own thermostat, right? Is your thermostat set at 100 degrees where you're just like hustling and working it and just like going after it? Or is it set at like 70? And it's like, as soon as something great happens, you're like, oh man, that was good. Okay, I got this. And then you just kind of chill out and you slow down, because you were getting to like 75, pushing 80, like that's getting a little too warm. I'm getting uncomfortable. My friends are starting to think I'm like maybe too good for them, right? Like I'm having too many good things happening in life. I better back it off. And that's what a lot of people will do. They will actually not take the action. They will not push in through, the hard times and these things, because they don't think that they're worthy of it. So your results, right? The financial freedom or the poverty, on everything in between, really those results come back to what type of actions do you take day in, day out, week in, week out? What are your rhythms? And those rhythms and those actions that are become a habitual thing are all because of your beliefs. And so that's really where I want to start tonight. There's 3 core beliefs that I want to unpack relating to finances, your financial intelligence or lack thereof.
I wanted to say that people listening are probably like, oh, it's probably so easy for you guys. You've just always been so well off and whatever else. I wanted to tell you that we started out as servers in restaurants. Okay. Like we literally graduated from college, didn't know what to do. We literally were servers in restaurants, and we bought our first investment with serving money. So I want to just make it real to you that it doesn't matter where you're at now, as long as you start. And before Brett talks about beliefs, I wanted to kind of break down my thought process on kind of what I thought about money, my beliefs about money. My beliefs about money were that it was scarce. There wasn't that much around, and that you had to be a celebrity or a professional sports player in order to have a lot of money and be wealthy. I didn't think that it was for me. I didn't think that it was for anyone in my family. I just believed that we were just going to get a job and just kind of pay our bills and just live that life, right? And so I think that when someone told me about your beliefs toward money, it was kind of like, what do you mean your beliefs toward money? Like, I have beliefs toward money? I didn't even think about that. So I think everything starts with a thought, right? A thought then turns into a belief or a feeling, right? And then that can turn into an action, and then that action creates a result. And so I think my thoughts about money were that they were scarce, right? So my feeling about it was like, oh, well, okay, well, there's not enough for me. So then therefore I didn't take very much action toward it. And then my results were far from where I wanted to be. And so it's kind of this like linear thing that happens, like the dominoes, like, they fall on top of each other, and it all starts with that thought and belief. And so I think this is super important. I think what Brett said is this is the most important aspect about financial freedom is your belief toward money, and your belief that you I don't want to say deserve it because I don't like that word, but that you can have wealth and that it's not bad. I think that was also something that I struggle with, that money is like good or bad. It's like there's no morality to money. It doesn't make good or bad choices. It can be put towards good or bad things, but that doesn't make it good or bad. And so I think this is going to be really great for some people to really expand your mind on what you actually do believe about money, because I think once you really are aware of that, then you can make a change.
So let's put it in perspective. As Laura was saying, when we first got married, we were young, right out of college, poor, and had no financial intelligence, right? And so I think that's where most people start. And I would say this is the first kind of person or avatar that I want to unpack. And this is where I started. And I think that a lot of people do start here. I know a lot of people that are younger, starting out in careers, are in this place. And I would say this category, I'm going to call it no financial intelligence. And it doesn't mean you're not smart. It means you have not been trained on the game of finance, right? Most people have not been trained. There's all sorts of different things that are going on behind the scenes. And most people are a pawn in other people's games. That doesn't mean you're not smart, just means you haven't educated yourself. And this is why we're doing these calls. So we start out here, right, with this idea that you have no financial intelligence. And it really goes back to, therefore, you take these amount of actions, right, that get you in the same boat because your beliefs are the same. You have these beliefs about money. You believe that money is limited, right? You think to yourself, I can never be wealthy. That's for them over there, right? That's for the people who went to college. That's for the people on that side of town. That's the people of, this kind of descent, right? Not for me. When you are in this spot, you think, you know what, if I need more money, then I have to work more hours because I have a certain value. My job, the skills, the tasks that I do are worth a certain amount. It's $20 an hour, it's $25 an hour, something like that. And if I need more money, that means I just have to work more hours. This is that limiting belief there, right? They do not know that the wealthy do not play that game. The wealthy create wealth by not using time, right? They've already traded their time. They are building wealth without time. Where the people without financial intelligence, they just believe my unit of time is worth this. It's not crazy valuable to the market. I haven't gone to college. I haven't done to this trade school. I'm not, someone who makes hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm just gonna skimp by. I know that I'm never gonna retire. I'm gonna work till the day I die, and I'm fine with that. That's a lot of people's, beliefs. They believe they'll never have their first investment. Next week, we're talking about how Laura and myself, as just out of college, maybe still in college, waiting tables, bought our first investment, right? We're gonna be talking about the actual steps on that. People believe they can't, and I'm here to tell you that you can. It's so much easier. It's so much in reach. So this group of people here, right? This I would say really where you're starting out. Let me show you what this looks like from a slide perspective. And there's gonna be a few of these that I'm sharing. And if you've seen this before, it looks familiar to you. It came from Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think he does a great job explaining this. And I wanna put this in perspective because the first, honestly, couple times that I read the book and looked at these diagrams, I just didn't really get it. I'm like, okay, I understand the top boxes, but I don't get the bottom boxes. So let's talk about this because at the top, there's two boxes and it says your income statement, right? And shows your income and your expenses. That's the money coming in and going out. And that I think kind of makes sense to me. At least when I first got started, I'm like, okay, I get that. But this one on the bottom, it says balance sheet and it says assets and liabilities. I didn't really get that, right? So I'm gonna show you this set of boxes 3 different times to have this kind of click, and I'll put it into perspective for you. But this person here, and this was me when we were first in college, it says you have low income, right? You are working a job, and your job, you see this line going into the income section here, that's your salary, that's what you make. 100% of what you make, right? It goes down to the bottom box that says expenses, and you're paying your taxes and you're paying your rent and you're paying food and your car and clothes and a little bit of fun money. And then it all goes out, right? There's nothing left. Nothing is saved. You live paycheck to paycheck. This is where honestly most of the country lives, in this kind of top box. Do you see how nothing went into the balance sheet? Nothing goes into the bottom. And there's good to that and there's bad to that. But ultimately, you're gonna look at these bottom boxes that says assets, which are things that you buy that are good, things that make you money. Essentially, if you just wanna simplify it, an asset is something that will put money in your pocket every month. A liability is something that will take money out of your pocket every month. So when you're first starting out, you can't even buy liabilities, right? You're living paycheck to paycheck, right? This is like a college student and a lot of people who are very entry-level jobs. And this is honestly where we started. If you are in this place, I want to show you and I want you to have this mental switch that, you know what, I can move past this. I can move out of this. There is a path for that. And as you are growing here, right, it really moves us into this second stage. And honestly, a good amount of people might be in this second stage, and I would call it the middle class trap. And you know, this is what is pushed. This is what you see on TV. This is, you know, that lady who has the Prada handbag. She has her hair and her nails done and she looks great. It's that guy who has the boat. He has the, you know, the Mercedes. He's got, you know, the several watches. He's got the nice clothes. The shoes are matching, all of that kind of stuff, right? They have a nice house. You know what they also have? Tons of credit card debt, right? No savings, all credit card debt. And it's the people who are chasing the American dream, and they're just hooked by consumerism. They're not really saving anything. They're buying only liabilities. They are spending their money to buy things that make them happy and smile and all these things, but it's all debt, right? They have monthly payments that are creeping up. So there's plenty of people that believe that they can achieve this quote unquote American dream. They can live in the nice suburb area. They can have the good job. They can climb the corporate ladder. But you know what it means to them? It means in order for me to have all of these nice things, I have to keep climbing the corporate ladder. Instead of the previous avatar that thought to themselves, you know what, if I need to make, more money, I have to trade more hours. This person here in the middle class trap, they have some level of financial intelligence. They have some training, whether at college or they have some more value to the marketplace. So their goal is, if I'm making $40 an hour, how do I get to $50 an hour? How do I get from 50 to 70? How do I get from 70 to 100, right? Year after year after year. How do I spend the same 40 hours a week and increase the value of those 40 hours? They are still trading their time for money. That is the biggest issue here, right? How do you create a retirement play where money's coming in and you're not trading your time? The middle class trap stops you from getting financial freedom. You look like you have all your crap together. I tell you what, as Laura and I were going through this and we were going broke, we were spending almost no money. We were saving so much of our income those first, 5-10 years, and we were stacking our chips, we were learning the game, and we were investing. During that time, we had a bunch of friends, a bunch of other people who looked like they were living the high life. They were traveling, they were going on all these vacations, they were getting all this cool stuff. Her and I were sacrificing for a dozen years. And you know what? We skipped this whole middle class thing. We went from being poor and uneducated to financial freedom in a relatively short amount of time because we didn't get stuck. We recognized that this is where the American dream is like quicksand. It pulls you into this thing, right? You go and you get the great job, and then you move out of your dinky little first house into your pretty nice house, right? And then you move from that pretty nice house, you sell it, you take all your equity, now you roll it into the next one, you get into the bigger house in the better neighborhood, and then you add the boat, and then you do it again, and you get the RV, and then you start going to France and all these kind of things. Meanwhile, you are stacking up no chips for investments. You're buying no assets. You're not investing in anything. You're not investing in yourself, right? You're not investing in your financial intelligence. You might be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and know what you're spending? Hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, right? Like, what's the point of that, right? Just so you can look good, right? What happens when your parents now get early onset dementia? Can you take care of them? Do you know that we run assisted livings and we see it all the time, right? People who wish they had prepared for their family because they knew that their parents weren't going to do it, right? We are being proactive here. We're going to make sure anybody in our family, if they need it, we have the resources to be able to do it, right? That is responsible. That's taking care of our family and our children and all those kind of things. So I want to show you what this looks like here as we're talking about this graph. It's slightly different, right? Now you see people getting into the bottom units here. So this is what we're talking about. You have people who have average to high income. You can make 80 grand, you can make 200 grand, right? There's a kind of a wide spread here in the middle class. But you see that they have their job, and then the income comes in at the top line there as salary. They have all of their expenses, right? They have taxes. This time now they have a mortgage payment. They have a car payment, which is different than the last class of people. They have credit card debt. They have school loan payments, right? They bought all of these things, the mortgage, the car, the tuition, all of those things. Those things are liabilities. Why? Because it takes money out of their pocket every month. You can buy property. Some of these properties are assets, right? They put money in your pocket. Some of them are liabilities, specifically your own personal house. Your house is a liability until the day you sell it. The day you sell it, you get money for it, but every other day, it just costs you money, right? Unless you're like subleasing out the basement or something like that, it is a liability. And it's totally fine if you choose to do that, right? But I want you to consider that this person right here, all of their money is going to spending towards bigger payments, bigger things. It's fun, right? It's intriguing, it's exciting. It is where the person before them who has no financial intelligence, they couldn't even climb the corporate ladder to be able to have the mortgage and the car payment and do all those cool things and have the vacations. But at the end of the day, both of these groups of people are still saving almost nothing, are still adding nothing to their asset column. Look at their balance sheet. It has nothing in assets, right? That's not a good thing. They're in the exact same position. One person has way more fun and all this kind of stuff, but they also have way more debt, right? So there is, honestly, at the end of the day, if you consider them like family businesses, one has a ton of income and a ton of expenses. One has low income and low expenses, but at the end of the day, they both almost make no profit, right? Because they're not saving any money. Their family is, one bad incident, one paycheck, one lost job away from bankruptcy. Either way, right? They are both not the ideal process here. So I want to show you what the ideal process looks like and really why do people get to this place? Because it does come back to belief. And we're talking about financial intelligence. And there are certain things that people believe when you're financially intelligent. And honestly, this are things that Laura and I had to learn ourselves. We had to really fight against this whole middle class trap. It is literally so intriguing and it's like quicksand and it pulls you in and it calls you and like all of these marketing stuff, right? Spend money here and there, right? And you give yourself little rewards and things, but nonetheless, like if you really decided this is for me, I want to be in control of my financial future. I want to be able to take care of my family and my kids or have a worst case scenario or retire at 45 or 50 or travel the world. Any of these things, man, this is the people who have prepared. They put in this time. And I don't think you have to be rich to do this. Honestly, I've seen school teachers do this. I know a lot of people who have achieved financial freedom and they're not crazy income earners, right? I think that's a really important distinction. You can make 80 grand a year, get on a plan with your spouse and hit this in, 10, 15 years. So you can be a medium income earner, you can be a high income earner, but I would say the theme to this, to success, is discipline. Discipline is your superpower. The people who do this, right? Because this is not get rich quick. This is get rich for sure. Slow and steady, getting that snowball going. And honestly, it sucks when you see that snowball all small and dinky. It's like, this little piece of crap, man. Like, it's not going anywhere. But give it 5 years. And then it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. All right. And then give it 10 years. And it's like, oh man, we're cooking now. This is going, right? And then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm excited. Like we could quit. We can do whatever. We could travel the world, right? It doesn't take that long if you are disciplined and consistent and you execute a plan. So let's talk about what this plan looks like. There's one more chart here I want to show you. And now you see the top box is being used, the bottom box is being used, but on the bottom boxes, now we have things in the assets column and not in the liabilities column. So let's take a look at this. You now have this person with high financial intelligence, right? That doesn't mean they're smarter than anybody. It means they put in the time and the effort to learn this money game because it is a game and there is rules and everyone is playing against you if you do not know these rules. So you have this person, right? They have their job. They're making money. You see this income, right? It's coming into their salary. They are spending that money on assets. They are buying assets. They are paying themselves first. That was one of the steps we're going through here, right? Setting aside 40%, paying down bad debt, and then saving to buy an asset. And that's what you see here. That's what Laura and I did. We started buying rental properties. We started buying very cheap rental properties. That's all we could afford. But they went up, right? And then we bought better rental properties. And then we started investing in businesses. And you can just start where you're at, but learn the niche because it's not like you get to do this overnight, right? It takes time to pay down the bad debt and start saving. And it gives yourself, 6, 12 months to start figuring out what works for you. But you see this person here, they have their plan. They are buying assets. That asset, that creates income. Every single month, that thing that they purchased now gives them a little bit more money. And the more assets you have, the more money it spits off. So now you use those assets, which create income, to buy your expenses, right? You can use that to pay your taxes. You can pay that for your rent, for your food, those kind of things. This is the process here. Someone with high financial intelligence, they are not spending money buying liabilities. It doesn't mean you should never buy liabilities. That's a personal decision to you. But when you're saying, I have this commitment, I'm in like growth mode, we are committing the next 10 years to hitting these goals, then it's not the time to be wasteful and buy yourself a Corvette. That's not what you need to do, right? If you need to go have, a little 2-day trip to the coast and recharge, cool, do that. But get back and start hustling again, start working 60 plus hours and be saving these things. And you buy the assets, you buy something that's gonna make you money. And you gotta get that snowball started. The sooner you can start, it makes the biggest difference. We talked about the graph from Warren Buffett last week, how right, he made like 99% of his wealth after 50 years old. That just goes to show you the power of compound interest. You just need to start earlier. You need to start faster. You need to start now, right? And honestly, I don't expect you to go buy your first asset tomorrow if you haven't been taking these actions, but you should be getting together with your spouse and saying, babe, you know what? We have to get these goals together. We have to stop the bleeding. What are we blowing all this money on, right? What are we spending on, fast food and alcohol and all this junk, right? Let's cut 20%. Let's start figuring out our side hustle. How do we make more money so that we can have more profit at the end of the month? And then we have time to figure out this plan. And we have time to start learning so we can start executing on this.
I think the biggest point for me when we were on this financial journey, is what I call it, was I think I was listening to a Grant Cardone, maybe it was a podcast or YouTube or something. And he's great to follow. He's a little intense, but I really like him because he's intense. But and I say this all the time, but he mentions that if you are struggling paycheck to paycheck and you're not thinking about your financial future, you're not educating yourself on finances, that you're selfish, that you're only looking inward, that you're only looking at your own family and your own self, and you're not looking outward, you're not looking up and around and seeing how many people you could impact by you stepping out and educating yourself and getting on that financial path so that you can help other people. And when he said that, I got like really offended. I was like, how dare he call me selfish? Like, I'm not a selfish person. But when I really thought about it, I was like, oh crap, like he's totally right. Individuals who are struggling and just thinking about their family, like, yes, they are being selfish, but they don't know any better, right? They're not pursuing financial intelligence. And I think that there's no excuse to not be financially intelligent because we have so many things at our fingertips, right? Like our phone and the computer and whatever else, right? We can just hop on YouTubes like these or go on podcasts or download audibles. I mean, there's no excuse to not be financially intelligent. And so if anything that you can take from this tonight is pursue it, right? Like you have so much opportunity and so much time. I mean, I'm almost 40. I'm almost like over the hill, right? But like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still so young. Like, I feel like I still have 40 plus more years to live. And that's a long time. And so I want to make sure that we are financially set so that our kids don't have to take the responsibility of us when we get to that point. And so there's no excuse, is what I want to say. There's no excuse, and don't be selfish. So if that's offensive to you, then good. I'm glad. Hopefully it pushes you to take some action.
Right. So I want to share one more slide talking about the path to early retirement. And again, I mentioned that Laura and I had this discussion a few years ago. And when we stacked up all of our assets and what the income was, and we had this conversation about, should we not work anymore, right? If you have that kind of goal, I want to talk to you about what this looks like. And I would look at it from kind of this right here. You have the same boxes, right? And now the arrow, it's not starting from a job. This is the goal, right? This is the goal for us when we were first, getting into this game. It was like, how do we get $10,000 a month? Because we spend less than that, and we won't live a flashy crazy lifestyle, but we can be with our kids, we can travel, we can, we had a travel trailer, we could do all the fun things that we loved. It wasn't crazy expensive. How do we do that? And if you come from that perspective, now you have income that comes in every single month, right? And it's starting from your assets column. And you can see here, it says stocks, bonds, real estate, IP, rights. For us, it was real estate, right? We had a bunch of properties and they were kicking off money. Some at 300, some at 600, some at 1200, and they added up to, our financial freedom number. So now you see this income coming in assets column, right? You are not trading your time for money anymore. You can stop working. And then that red line goes up to the top to your income. Now you can use your income to pay your expenses. So ultimately, this is what we're talking about. How do you get to a place where you can have more money that comes in every single month? Passive, meaning you are not actively trading your time for it. You did in the past, you stacked your chips, you bought the assets, and now every month you have more money coming in than you spend. And again, like you could just chill. I mean, there's still inflation, right? But the prices of the value of the rents and the real estate and stuff, it's going up substantially, right? And so from that perspective, you are really like almost hedge inflation proof. So how do you simply, and this is what we did, right? How do you buy enough pieces of real estate to have enough money coming in that you could stop working? And really it goes back to your why, right? Getting on the same page with your spouse of what is most important for you. And we chose not to stop working, right? We actually really liked what we do. But I can tell you what, that it makes what we do so much more fun and so much easier because we don't have to, right? Like now it becomes a choice where most people, it's not a choice, right? It's like, I have to go to work today. It's like, cool, like now I get to go to work today because if I really hated it, I could just sell my business and I could just be done, right? And so that's really the opportunity I want to give you. I don't want to tell you, hey, here's how the plan to retire early. I want to give you the plan to say, you know what, here's the opportunity to live the life that I want to do. And whether that's working, not working, you could work for free. You can go volunteer. You could take care of your kids. You can take care of your parents. You could travel the world. You can do whatever the hell you want. But most people cannot, and honestly will never be able to do it, mostly because of up here. The steps that we talked about are not that difficult. The actions you need to take, it's just time. It's just a lot of discipline and time. And most people don't want to put in that time. So I think if you have these goals, or if you have a huge pain point of I hate my life, I hate my job, I hate my boss, man, you know what? That's potential energy right there. Grab that crap, harness it, and just put that out and be like, all right, I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to figure it out. Right? Everyone just figures it out. We didn't know any of this kind of stuff. We were stupid college students waiting tables. And it's like, all right, we'll just one step at a time. And you know what we did? We screwed up enough times until we got it right the first time. And then we screwed up a whole bunch of times again, but it was actually less screw ups until we got it right the second time. And every time we just screwed up less until we started hitting them. And it's like, oh man, like we're actually pretty good at this now. We're learning these things. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're hiring a team. We're helping us build our real estate company and our investments and all these kind of things. And you're going to have your own journey there. But I want to tell you that, if you see us or if you see other people that are inspiring you to hit these big dreams and you don't believe, you don't have to believe the full thing. I can tell you what I believe right now about money is so much different from 10, 12 years ago when I made the commitment to learn. At that point, I remember thinking to myself, man, you know what? I don't think I could be like crazy rich. But you know what? I know that I could probably get to $500,000 of a net worth. And honestly, that's what I was thinking. It was like early 20s or something to that effect. And then my mind grew just a little bit more. I know, and I started taking action and I started learning. And then when you have context on these things and it's like, oh, well, I'm plenty young. I have plenty of time. I'm like, okay, I know that I can be a millionaire. And then later, my mind grew a little bit more. I now know that I can have a couple $1 million, right? And that's all you have to do. You don't have to believe that you're going to have, $10 million or anything of the sort, right? If that's not what you believe, that's fine. But you should believe that you can get your first investment property. You should believe that you can do that in the next 12 months. You should believe that you can pay off. You should believe that you can get on the same page with your spouse. Because once you believe this small little thing and you take action on it and you get part of the way, you're like, oh, that's way too easy. Okay, let me increase this belief, right? I know I can be a millionaire now. And then you start taking action. It's like, oh, okay, well, I got 30, 40 more years before I retire. I know I can get to multiple millions. I know that I can retire my parents. I know that I can take care of my kids. There's so many things that you will get to over time. Time is the most valuable part of this. And you don't have to convince yourself. Don't make it, fake, right? Just know that you're going to get a little bit of the way and just trust me on this. But once you get a little bit of the way, you'll be like, man, I got this. I'm going bigger. I'm going to 10x this thing. I can make this so much bigger. And you'll do that. And then a few years later, you'll be like, that was still way too small. I'm going to dream bigger. I now have the confidence. I believe in myself. I know I can take these other actions. And so I just want to encourage you, man, you know what? You can do these things. You can execute this plan. There's nothing difficult about it. It's just consistency and it's discipline and it's having that plan together with your spouse to say, hey, you know what? As long as I'm putting in the hard work, don't be screwing it up on the backside.
Too many Amazon packages on the front door.
All right. Laura learned, man. She's hiding them in the trunk now.
All right. Well, we do have some questions that I want to get to.
Sure.
And I got to say, I got to call out Bobby Lane. Bobby Lane, hey, I don't know who you are, Bobby, but you had some good questions. So I'm going to start with your question. Bobby says, what are some books or courses you can recommend that helped you get this money mindset?
Oh, man. Laura referenced this earlier. When I was going through this time of my life, I was listening to a lot of Grant Cardone stuff, and he has a lot of stuff on YouTube going through money mindset. Yeah. And that was actually really helpful for me. He had this little booklet, and it was literally this tiny little booklet. And I think I showed it to you, Laura. Yeah. We went through it. But you could read it in like a couple hours.
It's called The Millionaire Mindset, right?
I think so. Yeah. It was, I'm sure you can find it somewhere online, or find it on Amazon or something, but I would definitely recommend it. I personally went through it, and that helped me to really understand this stuff.
I would say, what is it? The Richest Man in Babylon?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or The Millionaire Next Door.
Both those are good.
Yeah, both those as well. But I would say, to be honest, Grant Cardone is really the one who really pushed me to change my mindset. So I'd have to agree with Brett on that. Mm-hmm. Again, he's a little intense. So just FYI, if you don't know who he is and you look him up and you're like, what the heck? Why did they recommend him? He's very intense. But to be honest, that's the reason why he's so successful, is because of his intensity. So love the dude. Next question. And again, Bobby Lane, good question. What are other assets other than real estate that can make these money babies?
Well, you could get into stocks, you can get into crypto, you could get into, intellectual property, books, things like that, music. I know people who get collectors' watches or collectors' vehicles. Personally, I stay with what I know. I built myself into becoming an expert in certain niches in real estate, so I stay and I play in that game. There's I think that you should just explore and see what's cool. What do you like? And honestly, don't be afraid to try something. Be like, that was either awesome or that was definitely not for me, right? And so we did a whole bunch of different things in real estate. There's a whole bunch of different sections. And, like one of the first things we did, we were buying mobile homes cheap, fixing them up, and then selling them rent to own on payments. And I'm like, dude, we'll get hundreds of these, right? I bought them for like $3,000 and fixed them up and it was all in for like $10,000. And then we were selling them for $60,000, but amortized over like, 5 years. And they were, it was just a buttload of drama and it was stupid and I hated it. So we're like, never doing that again, right? And that's totally fine, but find something that works for you. And I would say just check out different podcasts and different things. And yeah, I would say, same advice to anybody. Find something that really excites you that you want to learn, because you do need to grow towards expertise in it in the next few years.
Warren Buffett always says, don't invest in something you don't understand. And I think that's fantastic advice. And so I think, again, like we always say, investing in yourself and investing in your knowledge, I think, is the number one thing you should do. So if there's something you want to learn, I would invest in putting yourself into that niche by learning it. And so, we just chose real estate because we really just dove into that and learned it and really understood it. Granted, there's some things we still don't understand with real estate, but that's the cool thing about always being a forever student. And that's who we are. We're forever students. We're never like masters. Like, what is it? Miyagi? We're never Master Miyagi.
Yeah.
Like we're students. We're forever learning. And I think you should look at it that way too, that you're never going to be like the master of anything in particular, that you will always be forever stretching your mind and learning. Next question, which is a good question. How can you make sure that we are saving and investing, but at the same time also having fun, especially if you have little kids? Do you recommend any percent to be allocated as fun money?
I do think you should set aside something, and I think it's a very personal decision for you guys. Laura and us, when we were going into this hard season and spending almost nothing, we went and bought a travel trailer, and very intentionally, we bought it. It was like 21 grand, and our payments were like $270 a month or something. And it was the cheapest way that we knew we could. We literally made a commitment, and we did it for probably 5 years. Every single month, we took our travel trailer out with our daughters, and it was just our recharge, and it cost nothing really, right? It was like $20 a night for the campsite, and we were
gas and food.
Gas and food, and it was like, cool, let's go. And man, it was awesome. It allowed us to keep the fire going. And it only cost us a couple $100 a month, and then we had this trailer. And so I think it really depends on, you and how much recharge do you need, right? If it's no big deal and you guys are like, maybe not pushing as hard, then maybe you don't need to have so much fun money. But maybe if you're grinding and you're putting a lot and it's just overwhelming, then maybe you do need to set aside a little more there. I think longevity is the most important. What is going to keep you going for the long game? Because this is a long game.
I loved that we did that. Like that was something that, yes, it was, we bought a liability. Everyone's like, oh, you just told us not to buy liabilities. Yes, we bought a liability. We bought a trailer, but it was for our recharge, and we needed that because we weren't doing anything else. We weren't going out to dinner. We weren't going on vacations. We weren't hanging out with friends at restaurants. Like we literally weren't doing anything. When we say we were going broke, we literally were. Like we were putting away everything. And so we needed something to look forward to. And so we would, every 6 months, we'd plan it out. We'd sit down and we'd plan out every trip for the month. Okay, January we're going here, February we're going here. And it was just for the weekend, like 2 or 3 days. But our kids were little. Our girls were, little babies, like newborn and 2.5. Yeah. So, and it made it easy because there's a trailer. And so no matter what the weather was, you could stay in the trailer. So there's definitely ways you can go about that in a way that's not so expensive. But I do think, to be honest, you need something as a reward, because then you're just going to get drowned in like this is never ending. It's like that doom, right? Where you don't see the light in a tunnel. We're never going to have fun again in our life. I remember thinking that.
Right.
So you definitely need something to look forward to. This is interesting. Is having a wedding a liability? Is spending okay, she's asking, is spending money on a wedding a liability?
You know what I would ask? Ask your friends how much they spend on their second wedding versus their first wedding.
My gosh, that's terrible.
Oh, that's the truth, right? That answers your question. What would you spend the second time? That's maybe what you should spend the first time.
I get that. Yeah.
But people have this dream, and it's their thing, right? Like, hey, do you? Yeah. But if you have the choice of I can have this big wedding or I can buy my first house, then buy the first house, man.
Literally.
I mean, if you can get a taco truck.
Do picnic in a taco truck or like a In-N-Out truck or something?
Put that down on a house, man, 100%. Every single day, put it down on a house. Because how long will it take you to re-save that money? And then when you get kids, and then all of a sudden you can't work as much, and then all of a sudden those expenses go up, like, it's like you start that small snowball early, and that money could do it for you.
Yep. Oh, Valerie mentioned Think and Grow Rich, the book.
Yeah.
Very good one. Thank you, Valerie. That's also an awesome one that we also talk about too. Let's see. There's a couple more questions, and they could be answered quickly.
No worries.
How old were y'all when you hit your first financial freedom number, and what niche was it?
Let's see. So this was what, 5 years ago?
I'd say about 5 years ago.
Even less, maybe 4 years ago. So Laura was 62.
I knew you were gonna say something like that. Gosh, I get some facials and keep wrinkles out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was 30 or 31 when we first got into real estate.
Okay, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think we did it probably 7 years, something to that effect. It was somewhere right around that time frame. Yeah, it took us about 7 or 8 years. I was a little less than, 38 or something.
Yeah,
like
it was mid-30s.
Mhm.
And that's kind of, I mean, to be honest, like it feels kind of late now looking at it, but still, you got to start somewhere, right? If we would have known this information in our 20s when we first got married and we first graduated, it would have been a whole different story. But again, we still started even 10 years later and we still hit financial freedom. So I don't want that to be a stumbling block for people to not take action.
Yeah.
You know?
But what if you're 58 and you took the exact same story? You're 50, you're 50 now, and you're like, you know what? I have no plan. Cool. Execute the plan by 58. That is awesome. If you can retire by 58, right? Have $10,000 a month coming in, it only gets bigger every single year, right? Just don't spend like a crazy man. And I mean, nobody gets to retire by 58 most of the time, right? So whatever age you are, if you're 68, man, it is not too late. It is the day to start. I don't care if you're 70, then it's today to start. So whatever it is, today's the day to start.
Exactly. All right, last question. What would be the biggest piece of advice to people who are afraid of stock market ripples and how that plays in investments?
Don't play in the stock market. Do you know how much I have in stocks? Zero. Do you know why? Because I don't know that game.
Yeah, we don't understand that as much as
it seems it just doesn't make any sense, right? It goes up and it goes down and it goes up, and there's no rhyme or reason that I understand, so I will not put my money there. I have no issue if you wanted to say, hey, here's my niche, right? I want to learn this thing. I'm going to take my sacred account. I'm going to put 90% of it to this thing. And I'm going to take this other 10% and I want to put it in this secondary asset, right? For me, actually, I did it with crypto. So I don't really like crypto. I think it's weird, and who knows, it might honestly go to the moon. So I put 10% over there, right? And you can do the same kind of thing if that's the way you feel about stocks or that's the way you feel about something else. But don't make it hurt, right? If it goes to crap, like don't have all the work go to nothing.
It's don't put all your eggs in one basket.
I think don't go to crap is better. Yeah.
All right, well, that's the questions. Hit them all.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us.
Yeah.
Next week is the last round we're doing of this, talking about how to buy your first asset, and very practical. Like I literally think that most of our employees and staff, this is the plan. You can do this thing. You can buy your first property, and we'll talk about real estate because that was honestly our first investment. So
thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing y'all next week.
yes, bye everybody.
Have a good night.